There's a knife sharpener at the bottom there on the left.
Have you seen our local ne'er-do-wells?
Yes, I've been looking at these.
This is Colonel Blood, the man who tried to steal the crown jewels.
I was just looking at it.
He actually had a shop in Romford.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't
Do you know the
that.
market? Do you know Romford Market up the road here? If you go up the market on the left-hand side, up near the top end of the market, up near the far end of the market, he had a number 35, and he set up as a chemist. He wasn't. He was a crook.
Yes.
He was a con, and he pretended he was a chemist, and he ran it for about 3 years. This was a couple of years before he tried to steal the crown jewels.
Oh, I didn't know
Yeah.
that. Oh, that's very
This chap here, this was a famous local man. He used to live under a bridge on the Southend Arterial Road. He slept rough. Peter the painter.
Oh, right.
And we got one of his paintings just when you go through in the other room. His painting. He used to paint ships, and we got one of his paintings just as you go underneath the arch there. And he was famous. You'd see. He was quite normal bloke. He just lived in a tent.
Oh.
And he was a friendly enough bloke. You'd see him. You know, you'd drive down the arterial towards Southend, and you see his tent under the bridge.
Yeah.
And he didn't want to live indoors. Just wanted to live outside.
Yeah, some people are like
Kenny
that.
Vaughan used to live round in Ardley Green, which is he lived in Emerson Park, which is between Ardley Green, between Harrowwood and Hornchurch, and Emerson Park. And these are just some local people.
Yeah.
This guy here, he works here at the museum. This is Brian. He's written about 30 books on local history, and he's one of our local. He works here on a Friday. Brian does. And that's just one of the local pub landlords. And this guy here was the vicar of Upminster, and he's famous for discovering the speed of sound.
Really?
Yeah, he sent his friend off to another church. They stood on church towers. He stood in Upminster on the church tower, and his friend went down, we think, to somewhere like North Ockenden, which is a couple of miles down the road, fired a gun. And he watched the flash and then timed the sound, and he was about 95% accurate, way back in about 1780.
That is amazing.
Yeah,
I never knew that.
he got the speed of sound about 90% accurate, 95% accurate. And he was very keen on science. He used to study the weather all the time and everything. He was an amateur scientist, and he was the vicar of Hornchurch.
Oh.
Upminster, that's that one.
Oh,
That's
right.
the main church in Upminster, St Lawrence's.
Lawrence, yeah.
This one in Cranham, there's a chap buried there called Oglethorpe, who was a general in the British Army. We've got a picture of him around the corner. And Oglethorpe was, he formed the state of Georgia in America. He was out there in one of the early settlers.
Yes.
And they named Georgia after the king, after King George.
Yes. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't know that about the speed of sound, though. That is fascinating.
What's that?
About that gentleman with
Oh
the speed of sound.
yeah. I mean, this
that's
is it.
fascinating.
Local history. You dig up all sorts of characters. This bloke
Yes.
over here. I'll tell you about this Hillman. Hillman ran a coach company in the 30s.
Yeah.
And they formed London Transport, so his coach company got basically wrapped up into London Transport, so it closed down. So he bought an aeroplane, and he went from Harold Wood. Do you know Harold Wood?
I do, yes.
Yeah, when you drive out of Harold Wood, you go underneath the motorway, underneath the M25 at Brook Street roundabout. Well, his airfield was just before you get to Brook Street roundabout. It's a golf course now called Maylands.
All right.
And when you go there now, it's a building site because they're building a slip road onto the motorway. So it's all just completely turned into a building site now. But that was where he had his airfield. And in 1934, he would fly you to Clacton for 14 shillings and sixpence.
That's amazing.
But that was half a week's wages for most people in those days.
What an
And then
experience,
he got the contract to do the mail deliveries, I think up to Scotland, and then he did trips over to Paris, I think they used to go. And he was open for a few years in Harold Wood. Then he moved up to a place called Stapleford Abbots, which is up near where the M11 and M25 meet. Ongar, past Ongar, that sort of way, up that way. And Stapleford's still an airfield. It's a grass airfield with light aircraft, but it's still functional. You see loads of planes going in and out of it. And I went on one there myself a few years ago, and I don't recommend grass airfields.
No.
I like a bit of concrete underneath the plane.
Definitely. I'm probably with you on that one. Yes,
Are we off the ground yet?
I can imagine. Well, don't drink a coffee when you're landing or something.
No fun.
Oh dear.
Yeah. So, and then we've obviously got all this stuff. There's a lot of this Roman stuff that's been found. The latest thing that we haven't got yet is they found a lot of Bronze Age stuff down in Rainham.
Oh, right.
And the London Museum, we gave it all to the London Museum because the local museum always has first rights on things, you see. But the problem is that if you get first rights on something, you've got to find somewhere to store it, and somewhere to collect it, and somewhere to preserve it.
Yes.
And we haven't got that sort of facilities. So we got together with the London Museum, and they've got the contents of all this stuff. They've got it. And what we're going to do is do a share with them. So we'll get a selection of stuff. It's not the most exciting stuff in the world. In fact, it's Bronze Age is about the most exciting thing about it. Because it's just a few lumps of stuff. There's nothing, not like this, for example, which is a Saxon drinking,
That's
thing,
amazing, isn't it?
which
Look at
is,
that.
and this jewellery is. I think this was made in Belgium. I think some of these they were discovered in one of the local digs. But and there's some of this is Roman. I think some of this pottery, we've got Roman stuff under one of the other things. But there's a down by the river. You see, because we're down by the river, there's quite a lot of archaeological finds, because people love living next to rivers, because obviously for travel and the river 1,000 years ago, of course, was a major form of transport.
Yes.
As because we only had one road.
Yeah.
The road out here is actually the road outside the museum is the old Roman road.
Oh.
And that was so Boudica would have come down here on her chariots on her way to burn London down. We had Claudius, Emperor Claudius would have gone this way on his trip to Colchester when he came to London, when he came to England. We had a chap danced down this road from London to Norwich, a chap called Will Kemp. He was an actor at the time of Shakespeare, and he was always changing the words, and Shakespeare would write the play and Kemp would change the words. So in one of Shakespeare's plays there's a rebuke to Kemp which says something like, when the people who stick to the words in the script, basically it's in Hamlet, I believe, there's a rebuke which was deliberately telling Kemp stick to the script. And Kemp bet his friends he could dance from London to Norwich, and he did it in 9 days, which is where you get the word 9 days wonder. Somebody who's a flash in the pan, or it was a 9 days wonder.
Yeah,
it was named after Kemp. When he got to Romford, opposite us is the Golden Lion, which is one of the oldest pubs in England. Golden Lion. And when he got to Romford, he twisted his ankle in a pothole. Not that we have any potholes in the roads in Romford, but he managed to twist his ankle, and he had to spend 2 days recovering in the Golden Lion. So, he had to real pressure there, 2 days in a pub.
Yeah, I wouldn't have, poor bless him.
The
poor wee thing, isn't it?
It took him a couple of months to actually do this, but he actually he danced for 9 days over that period. And that's where you get the expression now, 9 days wonder, meaning,
Will Kemp, I shall remember that.
Yeah, that was him.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, we've got a picture of him around the corner there.
Oh, I shall have a look at that in a minute then. Oh, thanks very much.
Leave you in peace.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. No, you're fine. Thank you. Thanks very much. That gentleman was the first to discover the speed of sound. Colonel Thomas Blood.
a waste of time watching it. So he just picked up the TV, thought they played well, and stuck with watching theirs. But it is once England is out here, it wasn't at all. When I've got two sons, three men in the household, you can imagine what football was. And they're all Tottenham supporters. So.
Well, my daughter, when she was 17, she got fed up of the boys that she was at school saying, oh, you're a girl, you don't know the outside rule. So she did something about it. And one of them turned around and went, well, what do you know about football? You're a girl. And she went, and the other day we were having a discussion, I can't remember what it was about. It was about one of the incidents in the cup where one of the players ran past the goalie, ended up in the net, was struggling to get out of the net, and the goalie put the ball on the ground, and he ran around the goalie and then he scored.
Yeah.
And it was one of the Africans, it was Ghana, I think it is, and there was a big debate. And I said to her, hang on, there was the goalie, this way, he was offside, and she said, you can't be offside over the goal line.
No.
So she said,
but once you come back on the pitch.
Because
It came from the goal.
you're only offside when one of your team touches the ball. So this was the whole point. I said to her, hang on, and she gave me the exact rule. She said, the opposition player had the ball, he put it on the ground to kick it out, and the player came from behind him onto the field of play and tried to kick the ball, and he missed. The goal managed to struggle and get it. And I said, you must be offside. And she went, no, because you're only offside when the last person who touched it was one of your team. And I went, yeah, hang on a minute, I'm talking to an FA referee. I said, yeah, fair enough, you're the one you're on about. You're qualified. But that shut up all that, that's the cause of debate, I said, when she announced that. And we used to ring it up and ask me to referee matches. I said, have the phone, and they ring, well, can you referee match was that? I said, no, it's not me, it's the referee, my daughter. Well, your daughter?
Well, thank you for a lovely
Look out on our website, Havering Museum, if we have any special exhibitions to do sometimes. Because we do bits and pieces, and there might be something that you say, oh, I might do that.
Well, it's now a lot more time. There's also museums I can. There's also quite a lot of other organisations, like schools and things. So if you're interested in anything like that. I mean, they're normally small charge companies, but they're very interesting.
And if you're interested in looking at other museums, there's a very good one near Chadwell Heath, the Redbridge one. It's called Balance House. Balance House, very good museum. They've actually got their own team property in there as well, which is a bonus. But that's down Chadwell Heath. It's a walk from Chadwell Heath. Well, I think you can get a bus, or you can probably get a bus from Romford. But Balance House is good. And did I mention about the one in Hornchurch? Yeah, there's a little museum in Hornchurch which specifically does the airport. And I have been since COVID, I was there a few times when they were putting it together, and they're very keen there.
The Bank of England's got its own museum, just on the side of it, you're up in the city. There's the Bank of England that side, and then there's.
Go for your son.
And then there's. No, but you see, if you look up, it tells you what they're doing, they're doing coinage of different aspects, and that's totally different. It's just down the side. And on the other side, you can go and see one about where they dug up some of the ruins underneath, because it's the temple, underneath one of the companies. That's by the Mansion House, and the Mansion House has got its own underground. So in the little square,
And the London Museum, you've been to London?
That's closed at the moment.
No, the one in Dublin is still.
No, yeah, the main one.
The main one is the
Closed.
Yes.
But the one in Dublin is
Still open.
yeah.
Yeah.
get on
there's quite, you know,
Yeah,
keep you out of mischief.
I mean, the city is so full of places, volunteers and places. I want to see back to the power station tomorrow.
Wow.
Oh, my
You
son.
gonna go up Green Chimney?
Yes,
15 quid go up the chimney.
my son was cancelled last week. He's a guy, he cancelled it last week. And if he's all right, we'll be going tomorrow. Because they've extended the northern line to Battersea now, so we don't get the 9 on, we've got to go back. We've got all the shops, then he wants to have a look around a bit for Christmas. And then I found out that you can actually go up the top, over the chimney.
Yes, 15 quid to get up the top of it, £17.50 to come down.
Mark said as long as